Hey there, welcome to Super Chat Fridays. A very good morning. If you're in the Western Hemisphere, like Lauren and Lee, it's 7 a.m. for them, 8 a.m. for Lee, and 2 in the afternoon for me. That doesn't mean I'm wide awake. Welcome wherever you are. Tell us where you are. Talk about how you're doing. We're talking about rejection today. Everything goes. We're not holding anything back. So the last thing we want is for you guys to hold back when it comes to rejection. Let's get it out, right? It's really unhealthy to keep it in. We have Lee from Academy, hopefully pronounced that correctly, Lee Andrese, and LOREN GREIFF from Portfolio Rocket. We were just talking before we hit the live button. We've probably got over 100 years between us when it comes to rejections. So we have some experience to talk about when it comes to rejections, the good, the bad, the ugly, and let's get into it. Tell us where you are, chime in, don't be shy. Tell us how's it going, what time is it? And Lee and Lauren, say hi. I'm talking to you like you're 4 years old. Say hello.
Hello. I'm Lee Andrese, and I am the principal managing partner at Academy, which is an international executive and direct hire search firm, as well as talent management consulting firm.
Very welcome, Lee.
And good morning, and thank you, Sonal, and wonderful always to be with the two of you. My name is LOREN GREIFF. I am the president of Portfolio Rocket. I help creatives and marketers find the 80 to 85% of the jobs that are out there in the hidden job market and they're not posted. So that's my area of specialty, and I am so thrilled to be here and talk about rejection because no one does.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have a lot of stuff to cover. So I'm going to quickly come into the comments and say hello. We have Augustine, hey Kiasha, a new friend who is from South Africa, all from LinkedIn. Deepthi, Abhinashi, hi Suresh, I see you've sent a message. We are in touch on email. I'm not going to be able to answer you here. Alistair, Risto in Finland, how are you guys? Lovely to see you. Very, very warm welcome. Let's get into it. We are not even a minute, 2 minutes into it. We have a lot of ground to cover and no time to waste. Let's talk about what rejection means to all of us. Okay, so it's important to be honest here and not, paint it and say it happens to everyone. Get over it. Snap out of it. No. This has the opposite effect if you've ever said that to someone. So let's understand there is real hurt and there's real pain behind it. And so today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about our rejection stories. This is a safe space. Feel free to share your own stories if you want to. Ask us for help if you need to. But what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about the lessons we have learned, right? Lee and Lauren, if you could go back all those years and tell your younger version, what would you say to her? Right. So let's get into that. And it doesn't have to be politically correct. Mm-hmm. I certainly don't want to be politically correct. I want to do right by me. And that is the reason I think I have Lee and Lauren here, because they speak their mind. There is no concept of filter. There's no concept of censoring because it sounds correct. No, we're going to say it like it is. So yeah, let's dive right in. Osama, Gurul, lovely. Ajay, very warm welcome. So, Lee, let's start with you. Tell us about, how do I say this? Your earliest memory, I'm kidding. The starkest, rejection story that you think about. It could be recent or whatever, but it's very raw for you.
So back in 1966, So first of all, thank you for having me, Sonal. And I think that this is a very sensitive subject. And so for people to open up about this, whether you are here live as part of this broadcast or typing something out, I respect what you're going through. So for me,
Lee, I'm so sorry. I'm going to interrupt you. I think you wanted to say something about the significance of the date today. And I know it's not, it's very important in the US.
Yes.
But I think for everyone around the world, because we all live in cities, all of us, and we've all seen bad things happen in our cities. Yeah. So I don't know if you want to comment on that.
Yeah, I certainly can. I think 9/11 to me signifies the the epitome of what hate can do in the world, as every war. The worst part about 9/11 for Americans is that we knew that people hated us, but we had no idea how much, and to the degree that they were willing not only to kill thousands, take thousands of lives, but take their own to prove their point. So at the same time that that level of hate took place, the country also pulled together in a resounding cause and effect of resolution. We pulled together, we, right, wrong, good or bad, there wasn't one human being in this country who didn't reach out and do whatever they could to help those. And we rebounded. We rebounded. And this actually ties into today's topic of rejection. And so, when you get bombed, whether it's physical, emotional, spiritual, personal, it is personal. And rejection is, to me, I had to learn this a long time ago, that rejection hits the ego. Rejection hits pride. And when one's ego and pride is has taken a hit, that turns into fear. And when fear is a factor, now you become doubtful of who you are, what you can do, how you can do it, if you have any relevance at all. And so this is the point where, every day I'm getting, any number of calls or emails that says, why should I even bother? Why should I keep doing what I'm doing to find this job? I'm clearly not good at anything because nobody wants me. Well, we need to stop that right now. So this is about saying, get your ego in check, get your pride in check. And I will tell you, I think my most recent, I get rejected all the time because I'm in sales. And so, but one in the past week was horrible because I was rejected by two people that I know. So now, I had to go through that process of self-evaluation and say, is it me? Am I really any good at what I'm doing? I called people. That's the first thing you want to do, is get it out of your head. And these people are very respectful of me, and they will tell me the truth. They'll say, no, it's not you. However, it was me. The message I sent was wrong. How I sent it was wrong. So I also have to be able to take that step back and say, what's your side of the street? What is your side of the street? What did you do that wasn't right? And turns out that I did everything wrong. So the good news is I can fix that. Not today. I'm going to give it some time to breathe, like, good fine wine. You just open the bottle, let it breathe. Could take another year, but I will go back to those people. And if I get smacked down again, what can I say? Just keep going.
Keep going, live and learn. But the important thing, what you're saying is, there's a certain sense of humility. You need a lot of humility to say, oh, I was wrong. Oh, my message was wrong. When you're a salesperson, your offer, your message is everything. And, we are taught in our little businesses on how to have a rejection-proof offer. There's no such thing. I mean, there's going to be people who love it and hate it. So great, Lee. It's good to hear that you took a step back and you're applying it. You didn't take it personally in the sense that, wallow in self-pity. By the way, there's nothing wrong with that. I think it is very personal, when it comes to any form of rejection. So,
but allow it a certain amount of time, Sonal. Because when you sit in it too long, you can't get out of it. So you need other people. Like, I'll call you or I'll call Loren and I'll say, what's wrong with me? Or what's wrong with this scenario? And, 9 times out of 10, it is me. And I have to accept the fact that what I do isn't always right. So, you got to keep things up.
It's really important. There's 2 things here which are like jewels for me, gems. The first is call up and ask someone what's wrong with me. But that person that you call and ask, you trust them with your life.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because the otherwise you're not sure if they really get your message. Is there judgment? No, zero judgment. That's one. Second is what you're saying, Lee, is these are people right? You've known them for a while. So the relationship, for it to continue, it means that you're not this isn't festering anymore. And that takes a huge amount of throwing the ego out the window and just saying, okay, let's pretend this happened to someone else. How would we help and how would we deal with it? Thank you. Thank you for sharing. This is really helpful. And Loren, tell us your juicy little story.
Oh my gosh. I too have a lot of experience, a ton of experience with rejection. And of course, it's not isolated to any one planet, right? It's I'm the solar system, baby. You know, it's like family, business, personal relationships, relationships with my peers, colleagues. The rejection is not isolated to any one place. And I think that the piece that Lee talked about with the ego is designed to make us look good, right? Like I am protecting that piece of me that has to like look good. And I ask myself these questions all the time. Who am I looking good for? Like, is it for me or is it for you? Because at the end of the day, most people who really care about me are not looking for me to look good. They're looking for me to be myself. And so protecting that ego at all costs sometimes has also cost me a lot, because I'm so busy investing in protecting the ego that it can push people away. And so there's a fine line between having some self-respect and being able to kind of put myself back together. And there's also another part of me that can't go overboard and just spackle over all of the imperfections so that I look good to other people. But I think that the biggest rejections that I have really suffered from on a very personal level have been with my children, and dealing primarily with them deciding that they wanted to live with their father. And that was a stab in the heart, and took years and years and years, I mean, close to a decade, that I was able to kind of face that and say, you know what, this is not about me. This is not about me. This is what they want. And a loving parent, is there to support their children when they don't necessarily agree. And I made that choice. I'm glad that I did, because giving them the freedom was exactly the elastic that they needed to have to come back. So, there's been lots of rejections. It doesn't limit itself to my business world, although, of course, it happens there plenty of times too, because I'm also in sales, and that's just the natural byproduct of what that role entails.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing. And anybody who's listening right now and is thinking, yeah, this is getting a little personal, it's not relevant. It's bloody relevant. How you show up at work is a huge byproduct of how you are at home. Yes, we spend more time at work. Yes, right now work and home is all intertwined anyway, because a lot of us are not going to work physically. But thank you for sharing, Loren. That took, how can I say this politely? That took guts. I'm going to say that. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for being open, because anyone who's listening has been through at least one personal rejection, if not more, and appreciate it. And the inner work that you're talking about is not something that happens overnight. You guys are going to listen. You're enjoying, hopefully you're enjoying yourselves in the webinar. If you are, give us lots of likes and thumbs up. I forgot to tell you, very early in the morning for Loren and Lee, so really appreciate it. But the other thing is, you're not going to get healed and know the way after the webinar is over. It's a lifetime of work. And Loren, you've done it, but it's not like, oh, it's behind me. There's always a little bit that festers, and it's completely normal. So really appreciate you sharing. And I'm going to read out some of the comments, because I think let's help. Some of the questions are very relevant, because we have 3 recruiters here. So we have a very good idea of what you guys are asking. So I'm so sorry I can't see your name. Lee, let's start with you. How do you handle rejection when you don't even get feedback? So you don't know what to do and how to approach it? Because we always say this here, right? On Super Chat Fridays, ask for feedback, do something to improve it. But these guys don't want to give you feedback. What do you do?
So there's 2 sides to that. So the first side is, are you chasing the right person? Are you, so always take a step, always look at your side of the street. What can you control? Are you approaching the right person with the right message at the right time? So those are three things that I am constantly looking at. If you are approaching the right message or the right person, then the message or the timing could be off. So switch that out. If you are talking about a job, right? If you're applying and you went to an interview and you get nothing back.
That is her. I'm just going to qualify it. She's Sicilian, so that is the rudest thing you can. It's the rudest thing you can say in your own language. Just imagine that.
I mean, what are you going to do with that? So that tells me more about their process, their culture, their people, how they go about things. So again, I would take a step back and say, this doesn't work well for me. I personally, if I feel that passionate about helping that organization in whatever capacity I can, I'll take it to another level and say, this is the experience that your organization is putting out. So you have to make, as I call it, a business decision. How valuable is that individual? How valuable is that company? How valuable, blah, 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 is how far I will take it down the path to continue to try and get information, right? But seriously, it's one company, it's one person, it's one job in a sea of millions, right? So let's put things into perspective here. Are you gonna die? No. Can you change up how you do, when you do it, why you do it? Absolutely. So change your approach, change your strategy, change your tactic. And if it still doesn't work, move on. That's why it's always important when you're job hunting or even in sales, and Loren, you can agree with me on both of you, you always fill the top of your pipeline. So you're always feeding the top of your job pipeline so that with the right opportunities. You don't want to go after every job out there. Otherwise, you're really going to feel what rejection looks like. Streamline that.
Thank you for sharing. I just checked. So her name is Sabina. Sabina, I hope that helps you. Loren, would you want to add anything to that?
Refining that search, but I mean, I work with candidates all the time, and there are like 6-7 interviews, clients, there are 6-7 interviews down the pipeline, and they actually feel the love, right? They feel the love through the process, and then, wham, bam, something happens, and now they've become rejected in the process. Sometimes they get feedback, sometimes they don't, and that bruise is hard to recover from. Mentally, psychologically, to get back up, to show up for the next interview the next day. And so what I usually suggest is to buy themselves a little bit of a break. Watch a funny movie. Just stay away from negativity is really the overarching message that I want to send, because when you're feeling rejected and then you start listening to dark, sappy music, or, it just kind of compounds itself. So you got to flip the script a little bit and really focus in on something that is going to feed you from an affirmational way. And that's not to say like, oh, this is a bunch of platitudes. I'm just saying, like, shift the direction off of what's negative and feeling like rejection, and get into a place where you're being reaffirmed, and infuse some level of joy, because it needs to come back in order for you to perform wherever you're going next. But you will nurse that hurt. You will nurse it. It doesn't go away overnight, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's human. It's inhuman to think, oh, I could just, flick it off, because nobody does that. Even if they say that they do that, that's not even true. So let it ooze itself out, and also, use some things to replace that darkness.
As our friend Idina Menzel says, let it go.
Here's the other thing I want to say. If you haven't been rejected, rejection is also part of character building.
Oh, hugely.
It shows us whether or not we've got what it takes to persevere. And again, I think one of your comment or one of your guests said, how to handle rejection when does get, no, she said, you're getting rejected time and time again. Deep is saying that. that means, again, take a step back. Are you applying to the right jobs? Are you connecting with the right people? Always go back to your strategy. So there is nothing worse than getting rejected time after time after time. It's a blow to your ego and your pride. Your self-confidence takes a hit. And when your self-confidence takes a hit, you become desperate. And that sound of desperation comes through during that interview. And that needs to be kept in check. I'm not saying that we are at fault, right? So let's be very clear about that. That we can only control what we can control. We can't control the other side of the desk. So own and control what you can. And that is about who you are, what you say, how you say it, who you say it to, when you say it. Any one of those things needs to be modified and checked at all given times throughout your communication strategy, which really is about a job search, right? It's a communication strategy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Love that.
I do want to say that oftentimes life, like the interview process, is the process of deduction. It's not just about what you have and what you know. It's about what you're sloughing off. What's getting thrown away. That's the excess. That is not that's a blessing. I know it's easier said than felt. But those things, some people say, rejection is protection. It's protecting you against the thing that you're not supposed to be doing. But it really is, I find that there's a lot of the rejection are the things that are excess, that are not meant for me. They are just there as sometimes a test. Like, does that match? Does that not match? Is that right for me? Is it not? Of course, I think that happens a lot in the dating world too, but especially in the job search, those things just for whatever reason may not be the right fit for you.
That's right. I think your guest Risto actually hit it on the head. It's the ego. We got to watch that ego. So I think, Sonal, would now be a good time. I would say, let's give everybody steps 1, 2, and 3. When you are feeling in that mode of, I can't get out of my own way because I am stuck, my self-confidence is lost, I can't see anything but rejection in my future. What do you do then?
Yeah.
I personally call somebody. At that point, I don't wait. When I know that I'm going down that spiral, I will pick up the phone and call one of you two, call one of the people that I've known for 20 some years and say, I need my head yanked out of my ass because I'm not moving forward.
Yep.
You just cannot afford not to move forward. If you stop, mistake number 1.
Mm-hmm. And I love that. I actually experienced that with you guys not more than a couple of weeks ago, which I think we're gonna get to. But I'm a big fan of the pause.
Yeah.
I know that when I am in that state of rejection, which also is another term for fear, that I need to just literally slam on the brakes. I can actually feel myself doing that. Like, I'm going to start spiraling. The crazy messaging is going to start going. I'm going to, cyclone down into that, pattern that you had described earlier on, Lee. This becomes this, becomes this, becomes this. And then I just need to literally put everything on a pause frame.
Yeah.
And collect myself. And to be honest with you, I find that the hardest thing to do. That for me has taken the most amount of practice, because for somebody who's so action oriented and so programmed to be achieving and achieving and achieving, putting a stop on anything is completely counterintuitive to everything that I know. So that is also where the perspective comes.
So you're saying pause first, then reach out for help. And then I would, right?
I need to pause first because nobody will be able to understand my brand of crazy if I pick up the phone.
That's a good point. I guess I think I do naturally pause, come to think of it, because that's when I think first and then pick up the phone. Who am I going to call to yank my head out? And then the third step would be, once you talk to that person, is to change change your approach, right? Look at your approach, do an assess correct kind of thing, and then try something different, either with that same person or somebody different. So I think that's actually a really nice 3-step. Sonal, is there anything?
Yeah. I want to add a few things. Thank you for that. And we've got tons of questions. We're going to get to you, we promised. I do pause as well. I do feel bad for myself, and I have a little pity party. I think it helps me to just get it out of the system. When I say pity party, I feel sorry for myself.
Wait a minute, what kind of pity party is it? Do you have cake?
Yeah, I have extremely unhealthy food. Why? Because it instantly, gives you endorphins. I feel bad for myself. And once it's out, it could be a matter of a few hours. And then I have to call someone, and it usually is my husband. And I want to hear what's good for me. So it's like, don't worry, it wasn't. I want to hear that. It's comforting. But now here's the fun thing. We all have, all of the three of us talking, and whoever, you guys are watching, 20, 30 of you, we have a gift of time, right? We've, some of us have had some time ago rejection. So that time has been extremely interesting from a learning point of view. And I was thinking about it. I have I call it the 4 R's, the 4R approach. Extremely interesting. And this ties into my rejection story, because I didn't get there. And when we were thinking last night, we were preparing for the topic today, and I was like, which one? There's so many. I could write a whole book. It's so hard to choose. So I'm going to talk about a couple of them. But the 4 R's, the first one is rejected. Obviously, you're rejected, but the immediate reaction is, anger. For me, it's usually a little bit of anger. How dare you? Like, I was the right person for the job. How dare you reject me? I don't say it to them, but I'm thinking it. And when I'm thinking it, I am actually saying, get lost. I reject you. Right? So that is like, okay. There's a huge ego thing going on. I'm like, let it go. Just go with the flow. So the first one is who rejected who, the R. The second is the reflection, and that's where, Loren, you talked about it, and that is very interesting. When somebody said you don't get feedback, and Deepti, I feel for it, but when you do get feedback, for me, that's a huge, massive present. It's a big gift, and I have been told things like, your answers came across as a little too aggressive, and it won't tie in with our culture. I'm like, oh damn, that is really good feedback. I didn't realize that I sound like that in the beginning. When it's like courtship. Before you get married, you put on your best side. But if your best side is actually your scary side, the other person is running for the hills, then you're like, okay, I might have to slightly tweak you. I'm still myself, but this is good feedback that, okay, I wasn't speaking enough in the group. For example, it was a group discussion, which is an interview process. Sometimes they make you sit with lots of people. You didn't take leadership. Okay, this is really good feedback. So that's the reflection. Why was I rejected? The third is, unbelievably, redirection. Unbelievable. Every time. Now, here's my stories. Let me think. I got rejected by a guy. Thank goodness. If I didn't, I wouldn't have met this wonderful person and had 2 lovely kids with him. I was rejected by a job for which, by the way, I went through 2 written exams. Guess what? The first written exam, I failed it miserably. And then somebody knew somebody who knew my father, and they said, go again to this written exam. Okay, I went again, guess what? It was the same set of questions. I failed it again. And this was embarrassing, but it turns out that was never meant to be. That was not the job for me. It was just not right. So the redirection. And lastly, with the gift of time, if you feel relief that you got rejected, the relief. For me, relief is a gift as well. Thank God. There was a position in the other end of Belgium, which was 120 kilometers away, and they rejected me. Thank God. I would have been on the road for 4 hours a day. It made my life easier. It's such a relief. So that sort of helps me, and that tells me it wasn't MTB. It wasn't meant to be. It just wasn't meant to be.
That's right. Yeah, those are great, Sonal.
Yeah, that's great.
Thanks for telling me now, like 6 months later, but sure, that's good. Good timing. Yeah.
Absolutely. I see Tawanda here, and I'm going to introduce Tawanda to both of you. I think you guys are going to hit it off really well. How are you doing? Then I missed a few. There was some pressing questions that I wanted to get to.
So while you're looking at that, I do want to mention one thing to all of your viewers. I don't know if you guys know who Steve Jobs is. He built this small company called Apple, back in the day.
Yeah.
He was fired from Apple.
Yes, we did
No
a whole
company.
study on it in Harvard Business School. Yeah.
Fired from Apple. Talk about
Which he founded. Which he founded.
His company. Exactly. Yeah. No.
I mean, talk about taking something personally. I mean, he could have, but what did he do? He went out and he started, what was it? Pixar? Yeah. Well,
And then he came back to Apple. But then even the founder of Uber, this was more recent, right? He was fired. He was the founder. I forget his name. I think Travis.
Woolworth?
No, Travis, I forget his name. The founder of Uber.
Oh, Uber. Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So there was a question which was related to customer. Okay, this one. Hi, Janish. How to handle customer rejection better? Better. So after sales service better. How can you then work? How to handle customer rejection. But you mean to say they bought from you, Janish? If you could just help clarify, because I'm not 100% sure that the question is crystal clear. But if you're saying they bought from you and they're not happy with you, and then they reject you, if that's what you're saying, Lee, I don't know for you guys, but for me, that means they are disappointed. Maybe they're thinking they bought A, but they actually are getting B. So there could be a gap analysis to be done. Why are they asking for their money back? Or why is the service, after sales service? Because it happens when people are so busy selling, then once the sale is done, it goes to customer service. But
so is this a buyer's remorse piece where they're double thinking why they actually did this? And if there is, I mean, that's what I'm hearing.
Okay.
That happens, and that can feel like rejection for the person that is selling those goods, for sure. We're just not sure what the actual issue is. So we would need to understand what that is, because there may have been a mismatch in terms of the expectations. And I've had that many times with clients. And it does feel like rejection because I want them to get results. And I've actually called both of you in times and said, oh my goodness, this person is dissatisfied. And I take that as rejection. I take that on. I sign up for it willingly. And I think it's a reflection on me. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not. But at the end, but regardless of whose issue it is, the expectations need to be set from the very beginning so that we have buy-in up front, rather than waiting for it to happen further on down the line and find out that, we had completely different visions on what the outcome was going to be. So I think that there may be some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry, let's keep moving because we have lots to cover, and hope, Janish, that helped you as well. Tuanda, you're absolutely right about resilience. I was listening to a podcast 2 days ago, and someone said that, in the US, you have Mormons, but anybody in other country, think of these people who go door to door and they try to tell you this religion is better than your religion and go and subscribe. Apparently, they do really well with starting companies because they have been rejection proofed for so long that, I think out of every 100 houses they go to, they only get accepted at 2 or 3. So apparently there was this guy who was talking about how they do very well in the beginning with sales and dealing with no, how to deal with a no. I don't have the name here, but you're talking about, I see somebody talking about a very sensitive topic, and I want to be very careful what we say. You're looking at a job abroad, but your nationality is not acceptable because you're from Iraq. So I'm guessing there's huge biases against your nationality, and which is why your work permit doesn't get approval. So I'm sorry, let me find your name, but it's a very good, Ivan, there's a good possibility that the places you're applying to, are not nice. They're not nice places. If they have a problem with your nationality, this means they have problems with somebody else's religion. They have a problem with somebody's gender, right? If it's not an inclusive organization, there's always going to be a bias against. So, but I still want to say this is a totally different topic. I'm not discouraging you here, but it's not the best time to be thinking about moving right away because of the fact that all over the world there's been a huge freeze on international hiring. I've seen that with a few headhunters. But this is a great time to build relationships with the right set of people who absolutely love you and they are like, this is a great guy and he can solve our problem. When things change, keep this guy on top of your list. I would think more about that because Lee, you said that, and I'm a big believer of the stoicism, Roman stoicism. What can you control? What can you not? That takes a huge amount of helicopter view and focus to say, I actually can't control coronavirus. I can't control the fact that they don't like my nationality. I can't make them love me. I can't. But this is what I can do and focus on that. And if you guys want to say something here.
I have a Post-it actually in my office that says, "Don't go to the hardware store to buy milk." Right? You're not gonna find it there. You'll keep looking. It doesn't exist there. It's not sold there. It's not going to be distributed there. They don't have people that drink milk at the hardware store. So you got to really be mindful of where you are targeting and not set yourself up for it. Sometimes it happens organically, right? We don't know what we don't know. Once you start figuring things out, then you have a responsibility not to fall into the same trap anymore. So, there's both messages are really fair and valid because sometimes you're a babe in the woods and you're just learning the ropes. But
Absolutely.
That's the character building and that is the process.
Hey,
Yeah.
Lauren, and the same
Travis-
as if you go to that hardware store, they have those little coolers, that they do have. But if that they don't have milk, but they might have Coke, they might have Pepsi, they might have something else. So
They always have Gatorade.
they might even have donuts. One never knows what could be at that hardware store because of who works there. Not that I have any clue as to who's in my local hardware store who has donuts every Friday. But yeah, it's important to know what is available, where you are taking your time to apply.
Absolutely.
That's the point.
The name was Travis Callan. Thank you, Aditya. Sometimes, you're like, am I growing old? I don't remember names anymore.
Yes.
Tawanda is dropping a lot of gems here. Divine intervention. Oh my God.
It absolutely is.
It is divine intervention. I'll talk about another. I think it also comes down to your intention. And I've learned this with time, and it didn't happen right away. When I was applying to business schools, I was applying to Harvard Business School. Why? Why was I applying there? Because it sounded awesome. But the one I got into was a one-year program which better suited my needs and my family's needs. And sometimes you need to go deep and ask uncomfortable questions. Did you really want it, or was it to show? Lee, you alluded to it in the beginning. Or Lauren, who are you doing this for? And it was more, the glamour, and that takes a lot of humility and maturity to say that.
I've fallen into that trap many, many, many times. If I go to this school, if I do X, Y, or Z, then, people will think blah, blah, blah of me, right? And then to your point, I gotta get clean with myself. What is my motivation? What is my ulterior motive? What is in this for me? Is it for me that I'm doing this, or am I trying to prove a point? And that isn't always an easy thing to break apart, especially when you're doing things without a lot of intention. It's kind of like you're being led by something that isn't necessarily of the highest value. So I love that you brought that up,
Yeah, absolutely. Deepti, you took a line from what I said. I wasn't saying it's necessarily a good thing to scream and say, "Oh, I reject you." It takes a little bit of deep reflection to figure that one out. We're talking also about ghosting, right? And Santosh, you're talking about that as well. They don't really divulge the reasons that they reject you, especially the higher you go. They don't bother to get back to you, which is ghosting. Of course it happens. It happens in the best Fortune 100. Hello, it happens in the Fortune 10. It happens in the Fortune 5. I highly encourage you to watch a video that Lee made a couple of days ago. I'm going to link it in the comments. Let's just say karma is alive and kicking. That's what I'm going to say. People who don't come back to you at some point are going to come back to you because they need you. right? So it's about being gracious. People's priorities have changed. And by the way, I'm going to say something politically incorrect.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, everyone's on edge right now. Give them a break. I am sorry. COVID is not a blanket excuse for bad behavior.
Right.
So, no, because these are people who are going to use something else as an excuse next time. So that's not fair. That's not fair. Makes me angry to think that.
So there is a way that you can set the stage as a candidate. So if you are looking for work and the recruiter calls you, or even the hiring manager calls you, ask them up front, tell me what your hiring process is like. If I am rejected at any point throughout this process, will I be given feedback on what I can do better? So you're not asking for feedback about how you necessarily did. You're just saying, what are 1 to 3 things that I could have done better? And in that regard, you are getting the feedback. If the recruiter or the hiring manager will not divulge what that hiring process is, I want you to take a step back and think about it.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Is this the right place for you? Is this the right culture for you? Are you willing to let us not forget that you have the talent? You're the job seeker, right? You have talent that you can bring to an organization that does one of 3 things. And this is really important for job seekers. Number 1, you've got to be able to tie your role into helping the company even directly or indirectly increase revenue. How is what you're going to do allow that company to do better within their product or services to help increase revenue? How can you help them save money by improving efficiencies? And then how can you help promote their brand? What do you do that ties into all of that stuff? And don't forget that really, please value yourself. If you don't value your time and what you do, you're going to be slinging mud at the wall, and everything's going to be sliding down. Nothing's going to stick. So number 1, set the expectation right up front. And if you don't like the sound of their hiring process, and if they're not honest with you about how you're going to get feedback step after step after step, then you need to have the guts to say, this is maybe I'm not the candidate for you. Now, I'm not saying that you don't apply to that job. What I'm saying is that you go above that person. You go above, over, and around to see if you can know anybody. This is where your networking skills come in. So I know Loren. Loren knows the head of the department that I'm trying to get into. Loren, would you mind making introductions? So now I've bypassed a whole part of that process in ultimate rejection. And I just talked to a friend of mine, Danielle, about 3 or 4 weeks ago. She was turned down by her company umpteen times. And she goes, oh, no. Went over, above, and around, got through the system, got a job, and is making 3 times what she was making before. So just because you got 1 rejection doesn't mean you've been rejected by the whole company.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
Just because you got kicked out by the ATS doesn't mean you got kicked out by the entire company. And when I say the entire company, every person in that company has a heartbeat. They are human. So find a human being to help you get to where you want to be. Then you can say you rejected. If you've touched every single person in that company, then you can say you're rejected. That's a salesperson attitude. You only say no to me, Sonal. I'm going to go to Loren and see what she says.
Exactly. And I mean, I think that is part of that resiliency, right? You talked about it in your 4-step process. This is really about living and flipping that rejection into an opportunity to find a solution. And you're not going to stop until you get one. So be solution oriented. And I'm very clear on this. I know when I'm in the problem. Sometimes I do like to have my own pity committee. I like to do that. Yeah, I have a whole committee, but I mean, you just have a party. I have a committee, but getting away from the committee and getting into that solution oriented place gives me some of my power back, and it also it really empowers me, because when I use and flex that resiliency muscle, it gets stronger. But if I stop, it's going to atrophy. I know that. So I have to come back and I have to be able to, find other workarounds, as you talked about, Lee. That didn't work. Okay, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go over there. And every time I do that, I kind of put that equity back into my self-esteem, my self-respect. And it becomes more of a game rather than a black.
No, Loren, it's not a game for you. Let me tell you why it's not a game for you and Sonal here. You guys are on a mission.
That's
when
right.
you're on a mission, when you're trying to find a job, you're just trying to find a job. What is that? It's a job. When you are on a mission, when you're on, oh my God, I grew my mother's
Redirection. Yes, I am on a mission.
You are on a mission to make change, whether it's in your life or somebody else's life. You are not going to worry about that one rejection. You are going to keep going door to door, email to email, phone call to phone call until you are able to realize your mission. I think of Colonel Sanders. He didn't start
like unstoppable.
I know, that's it. Unstoppable. I think about Colonel Sanders. I'm not sure if everybody knows who he is. He didn't start that company until his 60s. 60s. Yeah. He's walking door to door with chicken. I mean, come on.
What about Ruth Bader Ginsburg?
Chicken.
What about Ruth Bader Ginsburg? I mean, this woman is hanging on for dear life.
Mission is not a job to her. These people, it is not. When you make your job search about a job search, and it's not about fulfilling your purpose, and if you don't know what your purpose is, take a step back, because that's where you really got to think. What's my value? What's my value proposition as an employee? Does that come through in all of my communications? Does it come through on LinkedIn? So you are your own product. So when rejection comes, they're not rejecting you as a person. They are rejecting you because they don't need what you are offering or your value proposition. That means one of two things. You either change your value prop, right? You rethink that strategy, or you change the person that you're talking to, right? It's just, we cannot stay in rejection. We cannot.
No, absolutely. And Dr. Gajjar, very similar question to what we had before. If your only reason you're getting a job is because they're not going to sponsor your work permit, we talked about it before, but going back to what Lee said and what Loren said, if this is not a game, it's very serious, but if you're being told no by somebody, go to someone else. And we talked about it. I will link it down below. 2 months ago, we did a Supercharge Fridays on, talking to recruiters. These two are, professional recruiters. And Lee, I like metaphors. And the metaphor we had used that day was this castle and the gatekeeper. And the gatekeeper keeps saying, no, no, no. Okay, I'm going to go around, make a little bridge over the moat and find the minister whose wife is my, aunt's niece and whatever, and find a way and get it, because that is resourcefulness. And if you are giving up after the first person said no, there are some hard truths to be swallowed here. And the hard truth is maybe you don't want it badly enough. When you want it badly enough, you make it work, and you do not use excuses like COVID. You don't. I'm not making it light here. It's a very serious thing. People have lost lives this year because of COVID. I'm not at all, making light of it. But what I am saying is people are hiring. People are hiring. My clients are getting interviews. Your clients are getting interviews. So it's a question of, yes, they're going through 5 rejections for every 1 interview. But it's like, you got to keep moving. And I read somewhere today, somebody wrote, it's about riding a bike. As long as you're moving, you're not going to fall. The moment you stop, because of pity party, some committee, whatever, no problem. But if you stop too long, you're going to topple over, you're going to hurt yourself, and you're going to bleed, which is not fun. So Dr. Madhav Sai, what we said was, don't go to the hardware store to buy milk. If they're not taking your services, maybe they're not the right place for you. Give it a little bit of time. International hiring is going to pick up again, because not all countries have local skills available. That's what I'm going to say about that. Is the job looking for you? Are you looking for the job? I love that. That's really relevant, Risto. Thank you so much. Girls, I have... I don't know if you want to say something else, because I'm not seeing a huge number of questions. This is a topic that we could really go on and on about. If you have, because I'm just thinking.
Question, Sonal. I have a very dear friend who is So I think this is a very serious question in that if your family doesn't support you, if they are putting pressure on you, if they are criticizing and judging you, I know somebody who is going through this right now, and it's horrible. And so not only does she feel the rejection from the letters that she gets and the companies that she's getting, but now she's feeling this pressure from her family. So again, I have to caution you that, what are their motives? Are they helping, or are they simply there to judge? And if they are simply there to judge, then you need to get outside support to help you get past that. And in her particular case, she just cuts them off. I don't even want to talk to you. And I can't blame her, because the last thing she needs is more negativity and that their judgment is actually fear, right? Mm-hmm. Anybody's judgment like that is about fear and criticism, and all it does is compound the wound. So Don't go there. Don't go there. Draw your boundaries. Draw the boundaries and say, basta. We're not going to have this conversation anymore. If I need your advice on my job search, then I will come to you. But until then, I suggest that we talk about, say, the flowers in the garden.
Yeah. From my own experience, and I have had a similar situation that you're describing with this woman, there is a maturation process in finding your own voice. It doesn't happen overnight. But that is also another kind of unwelcomed exercise, or an unwelcome maybe lesson that becomes one of those things that you have to know yourself, and removing yourself from a situation whereby you're getting a lot of those messages that are taking you off your game, to be completely honest, or taking you off your mission.
Right.
You need to stay the course. And sometimes there's a lot of distraction, bright, shiny objects, debris along the way that has nothing to do with you, that people are polluting your mission. And so you need to be able to get more focused and be able to know what is really important to you. And sometimes that does require just sitting still. This isn't necessarily a super woo-woo thing, but sometimes I just need to block out the noise and write it down, or put reminders around just to stay the course, because it can get very loud.
Yeah, absolutely. What I want to say to that is what I was going to say, because we're going to briefly talk about trolls and hate and rejection online, which is also very real, and it's worse this year. But I, again, don't want to attribute everything to COVID. We were talking about
that popular. Did you get trolls?
I know it was once or twice, no more. And trust me, that was enough. I always thought I'd love to get trolled. I was like, I'd love to get trolled because it means I've arrived. Be careful what you wish for. That's what I'm going to say. It was not a pretty experience. It's really funny that you said Colonel Sanders from KFC, because I like steps. I'm a step-by-step type of person. And when you talked about how do you deal with friends or family not necessarily supporting you, but even rejecting you sometimes and not getting the support that you can at home, I have this approach that I call the KFC, which has nothing to do with chicken. And it's the same step that I also applied when I saw that troll. So the first reaction is always kind, because that's just, a lot of us are naturally kind. We're born that way. We were not taught to hate from the very beginning. So the first reaction is be kind in your response. Very kind, very loving. K. So the second is when you see that your kind reaction is not necessarily resulting in something, then you're like, okay, I'm going to be kind, but I'm going to be firm. So that's firm, talk to the hand, very polite.
Talk to the hand.
Yeah, it's like, I'm still me, I'm still polite and kind, but now there's a firmness to it. And my tone, maybe has, our intonation changes when we're seeing that it's hostile person on the other side. And then it still doesn't have any impact. C is cancel. I'm canceling them, in the sense, canceling from the sacred space that I possess, that has been given to me, not just physical, but the space in my head of people that help lift me up, and this is not one of them. So they are cancelled from that space. That's it. Even if you live in the same house, and which is extremely hard. If you live in the same house, because you have to confront them every day. But there's a shield, we can possess, we can work and we can create it so that whatever they say, that shield is almost like, if you've seen the back of a duck, it's extremely smooth. And there's an expression, it's like you can say whatever you want. It's like water. It's like water off a duck's back. It just beautifully just flows down. Duck's already wet. So it's like, what are you going to do? Quack, quack, But it's like water off a duck's back. So I love that metaphor, and I've applied it many times. But it takes a lot of practice.
So Sonal, this is interesting because the way I was brought up, there's no kind. there's just no kind. You go right from, warning.
Think of that emoji. It's a lovely smile. The smile is turning into the one with no expression, and then suddenly it's like, okay, get out.
That's it. It's we get the look, right? So we get the look, and once that look comes, there's your kind. I mean, that's just it. That's the kindness. No, nothing is taken. But the thing is that when we're talking about rejection, you do at some point have to cut that person, place, or thing out. If it is not helping you achieve what you want to achieve, then that person needs to go. I would also say that when we're looking at judgment and criticism coming at us or towards us, for me, I have, 10 ducks on my back because of the way I was raised, right? The feedback that we got was brutal growing up. And so in a corporate meeting, I will never forget this, but there was this huge meeting that I was part of. And they just came after me with both guns loaded. And I just sat back and I looked at them and I said, is that all you've got? because that is what I was accustomed to, right? Like that was nothing compared to what I've heard growing up. So not everybody has been trained with that level of ability to have their, feathers smoothed and allowing that water off. So what do you do in those cases? And I think that KFC is a great approach to help people take that step back and say, I can fight, I can respond with kindness. I can respond with, what was the F for?
Firm.
Firm.
Yeah, firm. I was thinking something completely different.
The other
The letter still stands for both. so I would definitely give them the F. And then I would say, basta, more. Let's go.
Yep.
If you can't change the water temperature, then
absolutely. Ashutosh, we talked about the abroad thing twice, so go back and rewatch the replay. But I do want to say, if you're being told very clearly that you're getting rejected because of CTC, cost to company, there's something that you need to go back and learn, my dear friend. Go and watch some of the previous episodes where we talked about salary negotiation. It's possible that you may not have approached it the right way because you don't talk about salary until there is an offer on the table, because otherwise you're taking yourself out of the process. People will give you all kinds of reasons they've rejected you. Take it with a pinch of salt. Okay, it's rare that people reject because of one reason. It's rare. It's usually a bunch of things that have come together, and overall, it's not the right time. We've done recruitment, 3 of us. We've done a lot of rejection over the years, and we think a lot before we reject someone, right? Because we were talking about impacting somebody's life in a big way or small way. So it's worth looking at. Ali, I totally get what you're saying. We have a cousin in Australia who's not been able to find work. He's been so ambitious. He spent a lot of money on a very expensive MBA. Dude, you got to do whatever you got to do. Okay. If some things are not working, and in his case, he's been trying for 6 months, he's finally, swallowed his pride and moved back home. So I'm not saying you have to move back home, but if, what Einstein said, if you're doing the same thing every time and expecting a different outcome, it's time to reevaluate and bring that, make a decision that makes sense. And now his expenses are lower, it's a little bit under control. And when the economy changes again, he can always go back. Nothing is permanent. You are not a tree. You can move. But for now, I think safety and some sort of security is a help. Let's talk about let's talk about trolls online, because I know that we had a recent trolling episode. But Loren, I want to talk about your approach, because you had a couple of very vicious comments from someone on a post of yours, and it wasn't like your post was highly controversial. We don't need to get into what it was, but the person I remember wrote very strong words in his comment for you. I really admired how you dealt with it. So maybe this would be something that could be useful to our viewers today.
Sure. So I remember it distinctly. It did not fade entirely, but essentially I took it as somebody trying to discredit what I do. That's how I interpreted it. But I would wish that I could go to KFC. I'm not that person, okay? I am the person that when somebody comes at me like that, I just see red. And I see red and I move into like, let me put my battle gear on because I'm coming after you. Thankfully, I was able to just put everything on literally, I froze it. I know myself well enough that that nothing good is going to come out of me coming back into attack mode. So I needed to literally buy myself some time. And I distracted myself with other things, right? I did a workout. I talked to my besties here. I focused on other things so that I would not engage with this person. When I was able to have some sense of decorum around it, I wanted to address it in a way, and I mean, I did. I thought of Michelle Obama. What am I going to tell you? When they go low, we go high. I'm not going to play in the mud with this person. I'm just not going to. It's tempting. I'm not going to lie. So really, my solution was, back to the pause. Put this on freeze, and don't touch it for a little while. Distract myself with something else that I can kind of get involved with and take my mind off of it. And then when I come back, deal with it in a way that demonstrates a level of self-respect and also neutrality. This isn't me or you. This is just, I'm Switzerland right now. And I'm just going to go and deal with the situation as the situation is and not make it personal. And that's like 300 level for me. That's like graduate school, that's a hard thing to do. But I thankfully have a lot of support around that. And I felt really good about it in the end. And that's a big win. When you know that you've taken some care in responding rather than being impulsive, that also speaks volumes about you. And it really starts to reinforce the values that you have versus getting sucked up in somebody else's business.
Yeah, love that. Thank you for sharing, Loren. That's really well done. And I was talking to my husband today, and we were talking about, somebody attacked, just like fire with fire makes no sense. The other one has to have water. It doesn't work otherwise, because otherwise it's going to be a forest fire. Sabina, you saying, talking about support from people close to you. I feel most of the time one just wants to be heard and not really looking for a reason why one got rejected. That's it. It's like, that's why when we talk to our loved ones, it's not, you just want to let it out without a response. And I totally agree with you. People end up giving unsolicited advice, which is very true. It ends up sounding like you've been doing it wrong all along. They do have your best interest at heart, but their words are not helpful. Rather, I think they hurt. So it's better to not start such a conversation, which is why I said, when we said we pause, we think about it, we fester, we have a pity committee, pity party, whatever we do, then we call a loved one. And that loved one, we have to be so careful of who that person is. And I was thinking about it today. When we say your real friends are always there for you when times are bad, everybody says that there's something called fair weather friends, when people are only going to be like, let's say, we are all looking for a job. We get a job tomorrow and everyone's like, hey, congrats, this is amazing. They're there for you when it's happy. everything's happy, they're there for you. Now I'm not talking about the classic who's there for you when it sucks. We all know the real friends are there for you when it sucks. What I'm talking about is who's happy for you when you're happy. That tells me something. And it's very easy to tell which friend is genuinely happy because you have a celebration, like something cool happened. You can tell because some people try to fake when they think, you can't tell, but they want to know the details. When did you get the job? When do you start working? Which company? How did you get this job? Tell me. They want to know the very details right away before even congratulating you. It's like they want to know because they want to follow those footsteps and do that for themselves. They're in their own head. They're not necessarily present with you. They're not happy for you. So that, I read this somewhere and I was like, that's really powerful. Who's genuinely happy when you're happy? Those are the ones that you want to reach out to when you get rejected. I think that helps.
Yeah.
We are almost at the end. Hi, Dipesh, what are you up to, buddy? I've been recruiting for 15 plus years. He and I used to work at GE together. Currently head of recruitment. And this time, like never before, you need, oh my gosh, empathy is king right now. And yet so many CEOs don't get it, right? Whether you're doing outplacement, whether you're doing redeployment, the word rejection should not even sink in the dictionary. Yeah, absolutely. You've got to be positive. There is no choice. Our mindset, 80% of this whole looking for a job thing is mindset. So anyway, we're 5 minutes past the hour. We are very grateful that we have over 20 people who've hung out with us the whole time and haven't disappeared. So we are really thankful that you're here. Ladies, last words before we end the broadcast from you. Lee, let's start with you. What do you want people watching to take away from today in one sentence?
Rejection is what you make of it.
Mm-hmm.
Rejection is what you make of it. Love that.
Mm-hmm.
And Loren, what about you?
Stay on your mission.
Stay on your mission. Stay on your mission. Stay on your game. Absolutely love that. And yeah, what am I going to say? Yeah, rejection is, it sounds so cliche. Rejection is redirection. But I like that somebody said divine intervention. It's just MTB. It's not meant to be. So it helps make that decision-making process easier when they say no to me. Because maybe when I would have started in that company, it wouldn't have worked out. I mean, I know it sounds like sour grapes, but only time can tell.
But that's what's meant by rejection is what you make of it. You can either look at it as a positive or a negative, or you could look at it as saying divine intervention, or you can say, what did I do wrong? And let me go back and assess and correct.
Yeah. I totally love that. I do.
We're all basically saying the same thing in like Chinese, English, and Greek. So wonderful. Thank you so much to everyone who joined us today at this time every single Friday. It's always wonderful. This is the third time the three of us are together, which is definitely fun always. So appreciate your time and obviously to this beautiful panel. I'm just going to end the broadcast, but don't disappear. Thanks, guys. Stay safe. Wear your mask when you go out.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Stay safe, everyone. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody.